What's up, bitches? Take two. Because the first fucking video I shot was all vertical. Nobody likes vertical videos on YouTube. Anyhow, today we're working on a Pontiac G6. We are doing valve cover gaskets on a 3900. Now, most of the 3900s are going to be in, I don't know, Grand Prix and Palace and shit, I think. I'm not sure exactly everything. And they usually have the couple torque strut dog bone things right here. There are plenty of videos showing you how to get those out. The only one that's hard is this bracket on for this side, but in my situation I don't have that, so I can't really show you that. But there are videos showing you how to do the front valve cover gasket. Nobody that I could find had a video for how to do the back one. So we're going to cover mostly all that. Things you're still going to have to do, just like the front, is disconnect this little 13 millimeter line right there. Two lines for this hose pipe assembly that go into the throttle body. Those are just a couple 10 millimeter nuts on the throttle body bolts. There is a 10 millimeter here and either an 8 or 10 millimeter here on this other little hose that goes into this plasticky looking thing here. And replace these O-rings when you're doing this job. Pull the intake. I found it was better to pull the intake. Personally, it's what I did. You don't have to, it's your choice. I think you might be able to snake this thing out, but I think you're making your fucking life way fucking harder. Like way fucking harder. So, took off the purge valve, which I'd rather would have left it in there, but I couldn't get the line to disconnect real easy, so I was rather than fight it. I just said, fuck it. You know, a couple hold downs, your intake manifold bolts, doot. They pretty much come out. Map sensor, just wanted to kind of fall out, so fuck it. Pull it off, disconnect right there. This is your brake booster. And on the back side, there are two bosses here. There's a couple bolts that go into the coil pack assembly. I disconnected the lines from the front for your spark plugs. This would be a great time to do your rear spark plugs or do all your spark plugs and wire set because you're right fucking here, but that's not what the budget is on this car, so you know, whatever. Amazingly enough, side digression here, this is the 2-door coupe with a fucking manual 6-speed with a V6. This is a rare oddball car. I've never seen one of these. I didn't even know they made an option. Once you get your intake out, which you may actually need to do to get the power steering pump out, you do not need to pull the pulley. At least not in my application. Maybe yours will be different, but I know a lot of the GM engines like these, to get the power steering pump that's right here out, you got to take the pulley off. It just won't quite clear. This one, I didn't have to disconnect the lines or nothing. Kind of had a little bit of a problem. There was a bracket held down with a 10 millimeter nut on the back of the alternator for that power steering line. That was a little bit of a pain to get that fucker off. I used a big old pry bar and boop, just popped right off. Gave me access to the alternator nuts or bolts on the back, which were a couple 15 millimeter headed bolts. There's a 15 millimeter headed bolt right here that went into a nut. This is the nut, the little bracket that has another nut holding it on top of one of your intake manifold bolts. So you got to take the alternator out, or at least get this bracket out before you can even pull your intake anyway. You know, I don't know if you do the chicken or the egg first, but either way. I think I took the intake out before the alternator came out, but I could have been wrong. I don't remember. I did it like an hour ago. Got a memory like a hamster. So getting those two back 15 millimeter bolts for the alternator, a little bit of a pain in the deep beans. Take your belt tensioner. I just use the classic tool here. It's still on the thing. I saw no reason to get it to remove it, so left it in place. With your intake gone, with the alternator gone, with that, well, right now only 2 of the bolts are off the intake. There's also 2 nuts that are on these studs. There's one right here and another one back here, which, you know, whatever. I'm only showing you, you know, basically all the bits and pieces you're going to need to do. I'm not doing a live video as I do this. I'm fucking holding this thing with a cell phone, so, you know, I can't do 2 things at once. Get those 2 nuts off, and suddenly that just flops over. I unplugged it. No, actually, I left it plugged in. It's still plugged in here. Oh, whatever. Just threw it to the side. Now you got this big bracket, which I did not realize this whole thing had to come off. This is the only unexpected thing I had. There is 3 bolts down there, 1 bolt up here. They're all 15mm headed. I took off the 2 pulleys here. You don't really need to necessarily, but I chose to. There is also a bolt right here. It's a 15mm headed bolt, and 3 more bolts down in here. Sorry about the sun and the shadows. I left the bolts sort of in place, so 1, 2, 3, and this whole bracket from here to here comes off, assuming you disconnected your lines up here and all that shit. Bracket goes loose. This is where you need gaskets you didn't expect. Here's a couple part numbers for you. 35815 and 35816, and your valve cover gaskets. Real simple. You're going to lose a bunch of coolant when you pop that off. So have an extra gallon of coolant or so. I'm going to do that here when I'm done. And your valve cover comes off pretty easy. Just 4 8mm bolt holes. Normally you take off that 1 stud on these if you can get it out. Makes it a little bit easier, but I was able to snake in there and get the 8mm bolt out of the valve cover without taking that out, and it cleared just fine. Some people's other applications may be different. I don't know, but because I know I've had a pain in the ass trying to do those before, trying to get that stud, or not being able to get that stud out, and not being able to get the valve cover out very easy, and had to take an angle grinder to the stud, and this shit happened. But that was in the past. I'm a better man now. Take off your valve cover, clean it all up. Super clean your surface area. I can't fucking stress that enough. Clean the motherfucker. Don't just, good enough, wipe it with a fucking rag once. I actually get in there with a, wire brush, clean all the bits and pieces and dried up grime and oil and everything. Super clean it. And reverses the installation, or the installation reverse of the removal or some shit. I don't fucking know. I hope one of you bastards learned something on this one. I don't know if I learned anything, but I did half the fucking job. Now I just got to do the front one, but that one's easy, because at this point in time, with all this loose, the only thing I got to really dick with is this dipstick tube. 4 bolts should come right out, and Bob's your fucking uncle, or hopefully your uncle wasn't a touchy-feely type. Peace out, bitches. And I do apologize for all the cursing in my videos, but if you watch my fucking videos, well, I don't monetize my shit. I'm not trying to make a dime off of your asses. I make $0. Google makes money with the YouTube, but I don't make any of that. So maybe go to somebody who gives a fuck about the cursing. Peace out, bitches.